so sick of this weekend. I don't even want to share.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to This Takes the Cake. I am Lauren Bowles. I'm the Chicago office owner, and I am super excited to have Eleanor Scola with us this morning. She works at Nuage. She is the director of sales, and it is my favorite linen company. So excited to hear and learn a lot more about the linen side of things because it's one of my favorite things to introduce to my clients.
Yeah, good morning. Thank you so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be here.
Well, thank you. Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got started in the industry? I'd love to learn.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm born and raised in Atlanta. I went to the University of Georgia, and interestingly, I studied jewelry and metalsmithing at UGA, which is kind of an unconventional track, but it taught me a lot about attention to detail, certainly design. I studied a lot of art history. So when I graduated from college, I didn't want to go into the fine arts craft. It just didn't feel like a right fit for me, but I was lucky enough to get introduced to an event design firm here in Atlanta through a family member. And it just was really a natural fit. So straight out of college, this was in 2008, I went to work for this event design firm that really was kind of a soup to nuts operation. We had an in-house floral team. We
Wow.
had a prop house. We had some of our own linen inventory. And I was an event design coordinator at the ripe old age of 22 at this time. And I really just sort of went in head first and got my feet wet in all the things related to event design and coordination, project management, event planning, and so on and so forth. And I think anybody who's been in this industry for a long time will say, you kind of just get the bug. So it was the right fit for me. But it was also kind of a tough time being 2008. Things were a little bit like, industry's not so great. Things are
Right.
rocky here and there. Thankfully, I was able to stick it out for about 3.5 years. And I think as many people experience, unfortunately, at some of these larger design houses, it can be an intense environment. There are strong personalities, very big creative personalities, and it's a tough job. So, I take my hat off to anybody who works as a design coordinator. You're working at super hard, long hours during the week, and then you're working nights
All
and weekends
weekend.
too. So
Yeah.
somehow I managed to burn myself out after like 4 years. Like it didn't take long at all. And I said, I'm taking a break. I moved to Telluride, Colorado, where I actually launched a concierge program for a luxury vacation rental company,
Oh,
which was
cool.
kind of a great transition where
Yeah.
I was coordinating heli skiing trips for people,
That's awesome.
bringing in masseuse and chefs to people's homes.
Great
And it was great.
experiences.
It was super fun living in a beautiful place, skiing all the time. But I miss the events industry. And I frankly kind of miss living on the East Coast a little bit. So came back to Atlanta and reached out through some of my contacts that I'd made in the event industry prior to that, and was introduced by a magazine publisher to Pablo, the owner of Nuage Designs.
Mhm.
And really the rest is history from there. So that was in 2012, and I've been with the company ever since.
Wow, that's impressive. And I know you've, worked your way up within the company and it's so cool to hear that you have such a good understanding of just the industry as a whole, just because I know you work with planners and, different vendors in the industry. So you totally get it. And I feel like that probably helps with understanding certain timelines and, communication. So I love that.
Yeah, without a doubt. That was such a critical base of knowledge for me to have going into this job. And it's something that we really look for in any of the sales or account managers that we hire moving forward is somebody that has real world experience of being in our clients' shoes.
Mhm.
There are such a unique set of demands that are placed on planners and designers that you can't really truly understand unless you've lived it. And having the skill set, the knowledge to be able to respond to those needs is super important in what we do. But yes, you're exactly right. I started kind of from the bottom. I was our first remote hire working from home all the way back in 2012, which was like
Wow.
such a novel concept, and really grew our market share throughout the Southeast at that time was my primary objective. And then next push into Chicago, where you are. And then we just sort of expanded from there. So it's been an amazing 12-year journey for me. And I think we have some incredible things on the horizon for us moving forward. I feel like we're just getting started. So it's super exciting.
Yeah, it's super impressive. I know when I started my business about 3.5 years ago, I saw your company and said, I want to work with them, and I didn't really even have the clientele yet to do that,
Yeah.
or, and I quickly reached out and chatted with Nikki, who is,
Hmm.
here in Chicago. And of course, have interacted with you. And I know you work with our other offices, but yeah, it's always been an amazing experience from the beginning. I actually did my first um, you know, uh, before I had any business, I needed to create content. So Nuage was
Hmm.
worked with me, and I used your chairs and your linens, and
Yes.
it was really great. So
I love that. Well, I'm glad to hear you're having a good experience. Please call me if anything changes.
yeah, thank you. Well, I doubt that because you guys are amazing. I know you guys just opened your Chicago office,
Yes.
or showroom, I should say, and I
Yep.
was so excited to be invited and join. It was so beautiful. You guys created an amazing event and
Thank you.
showroom. So, do you want to tell me a little bit about just Nuage, the new showrooms? Would love to hear about your other showrooms.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have our headquarters showroom is in Miami. That's the hub of our operation.
Okay.
So anytime anybody rents linens from us, they're coming in and out of that Miami headquarters location. We also have a showroom in New York, which I believe we opened in 2006.
Okay.
Um, and then most recently we opened our showroom in Chicago just a couple of months ago where, I saw you and we had a great time. That was a really fun
Mhm.
event. So those are our 3 brick and mortar locations, but we have sales reps located across the country that are situated to really understand individual market needs, because buying and designing styles in Chicago are very different than from Dallas as
True.
compared to Florida.
Hmm.
So it's critical for us to have people that are positioned in each market to understand how that market works. Who are the players? Who are the decision makers? What are the demands of that specific area? So on and so forth. So at this time, I don't know if we're going to open any more showrooms. We just got the one open in Chicago, so that was sort of a big feat for us. Um, but certainly we see that that's a really important piece for our designers, particularly those who have or are looking for access to our furniture,
Hmm.
so that they can come and experience, what we have to offer. Now, important to note that we only carry furniture in Chicago and at our headquarters in Miami. So sorry to say for the rest of you folks out there, we don't yet have furniture in those outside markets. We're hoping to expand to that in the future. But if you're in the Chicago area or Midwest, or certainly in South Florida, come check out what furniture we have to offer at those showrooms.
Yeah, it's great. I know I love taking my clients to kind of look and touch and feel and play because, not everyone can visualize everything together. Part of my process with, my clients is I first want to see, hear what's most important to them, see their inspiration photos, but make it their own because everyone's style and budget is different. But I love leaning on, this is your craft. I work with Nikki here in Chicago. And so as much as I love design and I could say, hey, how about this and this? I want to say, hey, what do you think? You see this, what's going to work best. So I love that collaboration process with your team, but then also bringing in my client, letting them feel involved in the process, sitting in the chairs, like, showing
Mhm.
them the napkin folds. I feel like it's one of my favorite parts about my job is, that design aspect, but that we can be
Yeah.
so hands-on with you guys.
Yeah. That's the fun part, right? Is like
Yes.
getting to play with
Can
the
we
little
do
pretty
that every
things.
day?
There's a lot of not fun parts about planning, but that's one of the fun ones. I mean,
Agree.
there is no doubt that being able to look and touch and feel and experience the product firsthand is super critical. And especially when you're working in a luxury price point and for clients who probably haven't made this level of investment before. And
Right.
why would they? They don't know what they don't know. um, it helps for them to understand why it's important to level up in certain areas of that budget to make sure that they're really getting what they want. And having a firsthand experience of what you're working with is really important. We always recommend, of course, that when a client is working or planning or designing their wedding, obviously please get a planner. You need that
Thank
person
you.
to help guide you through
Yeah.
the process.
Totally.
And we strongly advocate for when you're booking a showroom appointment, make sure you're doing it with or through your planner, because coming into one of our spaces without any prior knowledge, or especially without having a creative direction in mind, you're going to be super overwhelmed and it might actually do you a disservice. So we always like for folks to come in with a planner. We do accept walk-ins, or not walk-ins, but we do accept folks that don't have planners. All of our showrooms are by appointment, so we like to know when you're coming.
Absolutely.
But trust your planner. They have experience in knowing what's going to work, helping to curate the entire vision for you, and bringing that experience to a much more directed place when you come into these design meetings. You want to make the best use of your time. You don't want to be in there for 2.5 hours just overwhelmed with options.
Right.
Either in on the focus and get it done.
I totally agree.
And I know not everybody has access to a showroom, so we also will ship. Any of our linen samples are available to ship nationwide. So if you're in that preliminary design phase and you want to explore what some of those options look like in person, just let your rep know and we'll send them to you for that meeting date. Maybe you're going to the venue for a walkthrough, maybe it's a tasting or a floral mock-up. All of that, we strongly encourage that you see what you're ordering ahead of time, so that way you're not surprised when the wedding day comes and something looks maybe a little bit different than you thought it did based on your computer.
Right. I totally agree. Seeing something on a computer screen can be totally different in the lighting and in the space. And I love that you mentioned tasting, because that's something I like to do too, is as we start firming up that design, maybe they haven't totally solidified which linen they're going with or which two, because I love when people are mixing. But I will work with your team and then also the caterer. So we'll have those linens on the tables, where I'm actually doing that at the end of this week. And we're going to have, an amazing tasting, but they're going to be able to see the linen on the table, sit in your chairs, and maybe use the flatware that they're interested in. And I think it creates this amazing experience. They're tasting the flavors, they're feeling, because your linens have beautiful textures. It's like they're feeling like this is what you're going to feel like when you're sitting in your wedding. And I think it's a really, really cool way to set the stage for the couple, and know that, because it's a large investment. I acknowledge that, but being able to feel, I think then they see the difference. They see where that investment is going. It's not just like, oh, it's a linen, and I get the question, do I get to keep them then with this price? Sometimes I get, and I had the cutest dad, we had custom linens for an oval shaped table. And he was like, well, I get to keep the linens. And I was like, no, these are rentals, and I was like, but where would you use it? You know what I mean?
I know. It is a significant level of investment. I mean, I could go into great detail as to why they're costly. But I think it's important to consider that when you're making any sort of selection for any element that's happening at your wedding, you are making an expression about your personality, your taste, your
love,
hospitality, your love, etc. And that's not to say that choosing to cut back on a budget somewhere doesn't mean that you don't care about your guest experience. Maybe that's just something that's not important to you, and that's okay.
Yep.
But I think it's important to consider that all of these elements are converging together to provide an experience for the guest that is an expression of the time that you want to have them to have at your event, and that could be from the hand of the napkin, whether it's heavy and has a beautiful hemmed seam to it, or, maybe it's just like, okay, we're having a barbecue, like we just need paper napkins. They're going to get barbecue sauce all over them, like that tells a different experience to your guest, right? Like that says, have a great time, get messy.
Yeah, let's get messy.
So, I think those are all conversations that planners probably have with their clients as they're going through that decision-making process of how you are dividing the pie of your budget, what's really important to you. And I always love it when linens are a nice chunk of the pie, because
I do too.
I think they make a big impact.
So
I think they're
impactful.
really important. But that may not be the case for everybody, and that's okay.
Yeah, and that's okay. But yeah, I agree. I think they're super impactful. I think it really changes, I mean, transforms a table, a room. It really is interesting. You know, sometimes clients will look at a space with no tables in it and they're like, oh, I don't like this carpeting. And I'm like, wait till we get the tables down and wait till we get the linens down. You don't see that, you know, there's so many
Yes.
ways that linens transform the space. We actually used one of your linen designs as a liner, like you kind of talked about setting the stage, and we used the peonies pattern that was, you know, the liner of their invitation, so it really set the
Yes.
stage. And then that was the napkin on their table, and then we took that design and put it on the dance floor too. So
I love
it,
that.
it was, you know, and I love when clients are really intentional with that, and love their linens and want to, you know, really want to play that up and into pillows and,
Yes.
you know, all of that. Speaking of that, can you tell me kind of, just for the listeners, kind of what just some people might not really fully understand what the renting process looks like. And I know you kind of said too, there's a cost that comes along to it because it's a lot of work. There's
Yeah.
logistics. Would you, you know, be willing to kind of just share what that process looks like from kind of from picking the linens to them going back and getting cleaned?
Yeah, absolutely. So, wow. Um, there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes. I definitely would point any listener to our Instagram where we have some great behind the scenes videos to kind of see
Oh,
the
cool.
greater depth of our operation.
Okay.
However, from your experiential side, we want to make it as easy for you as possible to go through that process. We'll take care of all the heavy lifting. You just need to make the decision that feels right for you about what is going to work for your design and for your budget. So, often clients will start just by visiting our website, looking through our tablecloths and overlays page, or maybe you're shopping for furniture. You're taking in everything that we have to offer and keeping in mind your color palette, your theme or your style, and making some preliminary selections about items that may work for your design.
Mm-hmm.
Typically from there, clients will order swatches, or they may be working with a planner, hopefully, who has our design trunk, and they can look through those swatches with their planner
Beforehand.
to kind of pare down some of those selections
Right.
that are going to work for their design. On the other hand, you may have a designer who's saying to their client, listen, give me all of your ideas. I'm going to select for you, which I think works beautifully.
Mm-hmm.
And trust your planner, trust your designer. This is what they do. So
Totally.
those design decisions are being made. We'll send out either swatches or full-size linen samples if you want to go to your tasting and check those out. And then it's really a matter of comparing your floor plan and your specific quantity and size needs with the styles that you've chosen. Maybe you're just using one linen throughout. Maybe you're mixing and matching multiple styles from different elements, from your cocktail hour to your reception to an after party, so on. So your planner, ideally, is communicating all of that back to one of our account managers. They coordinate the entire thing internally so that we're letting our packing and prep team know, hey, on June 15th, Lauren's having a wedding and these are the things that they're going to need. We're going to be prepping for that order about a week in advance. So
Okay.
leading up to the ship date, the order ship date, we're going to be reaching out to you to make sure your numbers are finalized, any final tweaks, and then we're closing out that order 3 days before we're going to ship it to you. We want to make sure that everything in your order arrives at least 2 business days before your event. So that's protecting you against any potential carrier delays, weird weather things, et cetera, et cetera. Once that's in hand, hopefully at your planner, or maybe it's going to a caterer or a florist, they should open that box immediately.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody who's not opening their linen boxes as soon as they arrive, please start doing that, please.
Yes, agree,
Because
100%.
we can't help you if we don't know that something is off,
Right, right.
So open it up, make sure your counts are correct, make sure all the styles are correct, do your little inventory. If everything looks good to go, then you're set. Take those on site, use them at your wedding, have a great time, send us photos. We love that. And your order will have included prepaid return labels and return bags. So afterwards, you just shake all the debris off, make sure they're dry, stick them back in the bags, and we'll make sure UPS comes to pick them up the Monday following your event, or the first business day. So if you're having an event on a Wednesday, we'll come pick them up on Thursday. They come back to us. Really, inside our operation in Miami, I think people would be amazed to see that 99% of the work that's happening with our linens is all being conducted by hand.
Wow.
So your linens come back to us. There's a huge UPS truck that shows up on usually Tuesday morning. They're unloading all of these return bags that have come back from the weekend. And we've got a team of amazing professionals who know our inventory inside, backwards, upside down, forwards, inside out. They're opening all of these bags and they're counting everything out to make sure what we sent to you has come back to us in the
Right,
exact
that's important.
size and quantity that we sent it to you.
Mm-hmm.
Then that passes through
Wait.
to laundry.
Not to interrupt, before laundry, have you guys found
Yes.
anything in those bags? Like, aside from your linens?
I mean, this is a whole podcast in and of itself. We've actually talked about, man, maybe we should publish the stories of like the return bags.
Yes, I'm like imagining what's in there. I mean,
I gotta say,
I mean,
folks,
obviously, food. I get like food can be, but I feel like
well, yes, but also like it's not that hard to eliminate the food, right?
No, and
like,
not that it should be like a chicken leg, but I know there's
Yes.
might be like, some things need to get cleaned, but yeah, it should
for
have
sure.
no other like piece.
Yeah. Well, I'll say this. I mean, God bless the people that work in our receiving team because, I mean, you all know what it's like at the end of an event where people have been using napkins to sop up this, that, or whatever, and it smells like stale booze and things are a little bit damp and like old food smells.
Especially if it's an outdoor
gross.
event. Mm-hmm.
Oh, gross. So they're the best people on the planet for doing this job. I mean, no doubt we've received linens that are rolled up with chicken bones inside. Obviously dead floral material. Like, all of that.
Remnants of that,
We received someone's like old photos of their grandparents, like wedding photos.
Oh, like a memory table. Yes.
Yes, from the memory table. And our receiving coordinator, Wilton, he did the dirty work of like figuring out, okay, came from these people. Like, I'm going to reach out to the client, and he returned them. Yeah.
Oh, that's so wonderful.
We have your grandparents' wedding photos. Like, so we
because
sent
that
them back.
That might be the only I mean, some of these photos, because I set out some of these memory tables, and you can tell this is an original and I'm so careful too about packaging it up. I don't want to, so that is so wonderful that, because there could be some people in this world that would just be like, chuck it in the garbage. This isn't what, so I think that's so wonderful that your team takes that extra step,
For sure. All kinds of things. I mean, I could go down a rabbit hole, obviously, candles, jewelry,
Yeah, jewelry was something I was thinking too. Yeah.
Yeah. Somebody sent us a bicycle once. That was weird.
No.
No, we got a bicycle. We didn't know where or why. It's just like, why does this have a Nuage label on it? Yeah. Bicycle. Clothing. Somebody tried to use one of our return labels to send back a dress that didn't fit them or something. It still had the tags on it.
Stop it. This is incredible.
It's all very bizarre.
I want a whole nother podcast. Okay. With next time with your team that is clicked so we can hear all this. That's incredible. What I stopped you. So then it goes. So so then gets laundered.
Yeah. So we're talking about. Let's consider hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of items that have gone out over the weekend. So I'm going to put a little asterisk here and say if you sent something back that doesn't belong to us, please send us a picture so we know what we're looking for. Instead of saying, hey, I sent this so-and-so linen back to you. I think it belongs to XYZ company. Yeah, we don't know what that looks like. We also processed about 4,000 pieces of linen material. Like, send us a pic. So, and certainly we get lots of stuff returned to us that doesn't belong to us, like we were just talking about.
For sure. Yeah. Other companies, I'm sure too.
Mm-hmm. So they get sorted into bins. They all go through laundry. We do some spot treatment if we need to. We assess for any damages. If something needs to go into repair, we send it to our linen hospital where it hangs up, and we either send it to repair right away or we leave it there. If it's beyond repair, we leave it and maybe it's repurposed to patch another item,
like a napkin or something,
or it's donated.
Yeah. Can you do that if it's a larger piece, but you could make, a pillowcase or, can you do that just to savor it? Okay.
Yeah. It definitely, it depends on the style
and the linen.
But we certainly try to reduce as much waste as possible because there is a tremendous problem with materials, scrap material or fabric going into landfills. And we don't want to contribute to that as much as we possibly can. So anything that we can reduce, reuse, recycle, repurpose, we're always looking for ways to be creative with that, down to donating anything that's unusable to charity organizations or, supporting young budding fashion artists or what have you. So we're always looking for ways to keep that stuff out of the trash for sure. So laundry, spot treating, and then all of our napkins are run through a press by hand. So we've got ladies who are running individual napkins one by one through the press, and then those are all folded by hand and packed by hand. And then every single one of our linens, after it finishes the laundry process, is measured again to make sure that it hasn't shrunk or warped, and then folded by hand and added to a rack, and then taken back to our inventory. So yeah,
that's an incredible process. And I'm so glad that our listeners could hear that, because sometimes it's just, understandably that not everyone understands the back end of it, or why things cost a certain way, and what the entire process looks like, why there are certain, fees associated with these materials. Wow, that's incredible.
There are many hands that are touching these goods from the time that they're picked to go to your order, from the time that they come back on our dock and are processed through our laundry. And, it's important to consider, too, the scope of our operation. I mean, we're shipping from Maine to Hawaii every single week. So if you multiply what you're doing at your event, which absolutely is critical to us. I mean, everybody's event is super important. You've got one shot. We're going to make it right for you. But we're scaling that across thousands of clients who are each ordering 10 to 20 or 30 pieces or more for their linen order. So as much as I would love to be able to take 5 linens or 5 napkins off of your order the day that it's shipping out, we're not always able to do that because these things are packed. We've got a big machine that's running to make sure that we're meeting everybody's expectations. And in order to do so, we've got to plan ahead and be prepared and, get all of these things pulled and ready to go for you. So.
Yeah, thank you for walking through that. I understand the process, but not to that scale. So that was great. Well, tell me more. I love linen. So I want to know, do you have a new favorite linen? How do you like to set a table? If you were planning an event, do you like to start with the linen, the flowers? How do you like to build? Just would love to hear, because I know you have such a great design background. Would love to hear your process.
I think of table design very much like getting dressed for an event. And every piece of the table kind of correlates to a different part of how you might style yourself. So the linen for me is, I might be biased, but it is kind of the most important
the base.
If you think about, you've got 132 inches or 156 inches of fabric that's going to communicate something about your vision. If you've got a stripe that says maybe I'm preppy, or this is a masculine event, or that has a very different connotation to something that's maybe fluffy and tulle and light and airy. So that's going to communicate something instantaneously to the guest that tells them, what is the purpose of this event? What is the feeling for this event? What can I potentially expect later? And also indicates a little bit about the personality of the host and what you're looking to do there, right? So I like to start there. Obviously, color, texture, pattern, all very important and could vary from season to purpose of the event, so on and so forth. So I think of that like a dress. And then I like to think about maybe what am I going to do with my hair, right? How am I going to wear my hair with this dress? And that to me is flowers. So that could be something that's very tight and coiffed and concise, or it could be something that's loose and natural, has a wild kind of feel. Obviously, you're playing with color and texture in that space as well. But those are kind of the two sort of anchor pieces that you're working with in that tablescape. And then expanding out from there, you're going to have your china, flatware, glassware. That's your jewelry.
Right? Yeah. What metals and all that. Yeah.
That's right. What metals. And again, you're kind of layering in added interests, things for people to, for their eyes to catch on across the table so that they can discover little things along the way, right? Like maybe you're wearing, a small earring, or you're wearing like a stack of rings. Those are all going to give a little more information about personality, about the experience, how you're going to be dining at the table, for example. If you have a full place setting, you're going to have a lot of different courses, so on and so forth.
Right.
So again, you're just layering in information visually for your guest. My favorite, well, maybe not my favorite, but a really fun touch is your napkin. And that to me is lipstick. So lipstick is like that finishing touch where you're saying, okay, I'm going to pull in just an accent color that kind of ties everything together. And I think your napkin really achieves that for the tablescape. Obviously, you can choose another print. You can choose just a solid color. And then you've got some more options as far as how you're going to style that. Is it going to hold your menu card? Is it going to nest underneath the china or flatware? Is it falling off the table? Is it tied into a bow? So all kinds of really fun things you can do with that piece. I think, what's really important for designers and for clients to consider is the more layers of interest that you can add to the table, the more dynamic an experience your guest is going to have, and it's going to tell more information about you and the experience that they can expect to have at the event. And then all of the little features of those elements that you're using are just indicating things about your personality.
Totally.
Creating that vibe, that experience. So it's just super fun. I mean, there's just limitless possibilities. So
it really is. If I could do a table every day, that would be my favorite thing. Go to your showroom and just play. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. What kind of tablescapes are you enjoying? Do you like rounds? Do you like rects?
Yeah, I like
Prints,
mixing.
patterns?
Yeah, I like mixing the shapes and of the tables, and then also mixing the patterns or mixing the linens. Not just doing a sea of the same color. I like creating some interest, like you said. It's so fun to play where it's still cohesive and it doesn't feel busy, but there is really unique ways where you can mix patterns and I like you said, and create those layers of detail, even just with the texture, if it's a velvet napkin or, I think that, and I see guests at the table, when they see, because that's my favorite part when they walk into the room, or especially when the couple, will often do a room reveal because, when guests come in for the wedding, they might, if it's, they have shawls or clutch purses, the room kind of gets filled and they don't get to see it. So I love for them to do that, room reveal and, see it all come to life, and they're the only two in the room. Sometimes they do a first dance or we have music playing, and just seeing their expression is just incredible. But also then when the guests walk in, seeing their reaction, and I see them touching the linens, they're like, oh, touching the napkins, and that they do notice this, and I think that people don't always, that people do see these details, especially when you're at dinner for on average an hour and a half for a wedding, just because toasts and special moments and food service for, a large amount of people, that people are sitting there, they're taking in all those things that you said, and it's really beautiful.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, tell me, I wanted to know, I know we've been talking about budget a little bit and how linens can be an investment, which I agree. Yeah. Is there a percentage of, not saying you have to say the number, but is there a percentage of a wedding budget that you think should be allocated to linens? If this was, let's say this was a client that linens were really important to them and, in creating that look.
Mm-hmm. It's hard for me to say a percentage because it really is, it's just so highly dependent on
size and of the wedding. Yeah.
Size, that person's, interest or kind of attachment to that piece. Maybe they have a really sentimental attachment to having peonies at their wedding and it's September and they're like, well, I'll pay whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
And so their money's going to go there. So it's kind of hard for me to say necessarily what a percentage might be, but I would suggest that for someone who is curious about what kind of the world of linens costs, it's reasonable to expect to pay around $85 per table. So if you've got 15 tables at your reception, that's going to be just under $1,300 just in the rental costs. But factor in also, we include a damage waiver on our inventory, which is really for the protection of the client, in addition to shipping costs, which will vary based on how much you're ordering. Then that can really scale from there, depending on the complexity of your design. If you want to add napkins, chargers, runners, specialty linens for certain additional tables. On top of the fact that we also offer custom linen services where if you have, like you were mentioning, your client who has an oval table, we can produce an oval linen for you. We can pipe a linen. We can add box pleats. We can add inset pleats. We can add contrast borders. So if there are truly customized things that you're looking to achieve with your linens, we can do that too, but it is costly.
It comes a cost with that. Yep.
Yeah, there's a cost with that. Certainly the end result is typically breathtaking because you've taken the time to invest in something that's really forward thinking from a design perspective, but you can expect to pay, you know? So it really just kind of depends on where the client wants to allocate that piece of their budget, how many guests they have, you know, where the wedding is. I mean, if you're getting married in Mexico, it may not be that important to you, you know?
True. Yeah. Is there a linen that's trending right now? Would you say that, or is there a line that you are really liking that's new with Nuage?
Yeah. I feel like we're seeing a lot of florals right now. We're seeing clients just kind of go back to that sweet, I don't know. I feel like cottagecore had a minute. We're seeing just a lot of like nice floral patterns of all kinds of scales, from small to large. We are soon to be releasing some more floral prints, so stay tuned.
That's
for
exciting.
That. More kind of botanical themes. Yep, you actually saw a few at the showroom open
Oh,
house.
okay. I'll have to go look back at my videos. Was it when the showroom, when we had the tables that were the tablescapes that were, those were incredible. Absolutely beautiful.
So those are coming really soon. But again, I mean, really depending on who the client is and what they're doing, we see such a range. You know, I will say, I think people are probably moving away from like the burlappy kind of woven textures that were super popular 6-7 years ago.
Yeah, I see that.
Velvets are still incredibly popular, even across seasons.
I know. I agree.
You know, and for anyone who's nervous about using a velvet in the summer, it's like, well, you know, you can do that. You can do what you want.
You can do anything you want. And especially depending on the color and how you use it. Like, you know, I have some couples that, you know, linens are important to them. But again, with, you know, budgets and things like that, there's still ways I try to say, we can still have this linen. Let's do this on your cake table. It's a focal point. Let's do this on your sweetheart table. Not that you would do, you know, but you can kind of mix too and still get those elements. Like I love being able to see an inspiration photo and say, well, there's areas we can do all of this just at a different scale.
Yep. Or move it into a napkin.
Right. You know? Well, yeah, that exactly.
That's the perfect place to do it. Yeah. I will say, and I'm so curious to hear your opinion on this, or if you have seen this, but I heard like a little rumble that crinkle taffeta is trying to come back. And I have really strong feelings about this.
I hope not.
And they're not positive ones.
Yeah, no, same. I did not hear this, but I hope it's not true.
I think that all of us with like hard 2008 trauma are just going to work to suppress this movement. And say, listen, I mean, I'm old enough to say like Gen Z, this is not one that we're going to bring back.
That we have to bring back. Yeah. And I'm not a pushy planner. I'm kind of the one where like, of course, I'm going to, you know, advise and I'm going to say, but that would be one time I'd be pretty straw-handed and be like, no.
That's a gentle steer.
Yeah, that's a
gentle steer. We're going to redirect. Yes. This. Yeah.
How about this instead?
No.
So, tell me. So, you guys have quite a few. I know. So, we have inventory-wise, of course, beautiful linens. You have chairs, and then also chargers. Am I missing anything out? Furniture, and then you have the furniture pieces too. Because I know I've, you know, utilized the furniture, which is beautiful.
Yeah. So on our soft goods side, I'll say, we have linens, which sort of, that informs kind of everything else that's in our soft good inventory.
Oh, you kind of hold off of that.
If you see a linen print that you like, very likely we also have it in a napkin, a runner, and a pillow. So that's a great way to carry that theme across your entire event. Like you were talking about before, your client who did it on their dance floor wrap and, you know, in all these different places.
And we did the pillows too. I love that.
Add the pillows. Yeah. I mean, put them onto your lounge, whether it's pre-existing at the venue or you're bringing it in from us or another vendor. And then in hard goods, we have chairs, high tables, dining tables,
Right.
lounge furniture, side tables, kind of all the things that you might need to flesh out your lounge space. And also, of course, add your chair element to the space, which we haven't really talked about, but chairs are hugely transformative when you enter into a space.
Huge.
They can really shift the vibe from one to another depending on that chair choice. I mean, you think about what a wooden chair feels like compared to a metal and velvet chair.
With velvet, right?
I mean, completely different take. And you may pair it with the exact same linen and it's a totally different experience. So
yeah, it's
another
incredible.
one to play with.
I really like the shape too, because you have such unique chairs. It's not just this, and I know everyone's very familiar with the Chiavari chair, and those are great. Those are classic, great. But I just love your inventory because sometimes we'll play with, because I said earlier I like to do a mix of rectangular and round tables. So sometimes we'll do like a rectangular back chair with the rectangular tables,
Yep.
but then at the round tables we'll do a rounded, but it's and you can play and flip and all that, but it's so interesting. You can mix linens, you can also mix chairs within
Cheers.
a room too. You
Yep.
actually, Nuage, you posted one of our events that we did with with some of your materials, and that's exactly what we did. It was an all white wedding, and you guys recently posted. I was so excited because I just love your company so much. But yeah, it was an all white wedding, but the linens were very textured. And then we also, one side note, the bride, which I thought was super unique, she had all of the vendors wear white too.
Oh, cool.
So, yeah, so all white wedding. So the venue was all white. We brought in like the lucite chair. Everything was white.
Yep.
And then she wanted all the vendors in white, but the guests were able to wear color. And of course, she was in white. But she kind of wanted that surrounding aspect of what her guests walked into to be white. And and I think some people questioned it along the way, like just some vendors, like, really? But I think it came off beautifully.
Yeah.
We kind of because we blended, then we still did blend in, because typically we wear black to just blend in the back because it's not our day. So
yeah, 100%. I mean, that's a great example of just ensuring that the entire process is thoughtfully curated, and you're using one color across the entire guest experience, but you're making it interesting by introducing color and shape. Excuse me, texture and shape, not color. Texture and shape, and bringing that to life also in your vendor team, and making sure that okay, this is very much a part of the experience as well.
Yeah.
I love that. It's super cool.
It was cool. Well, tell me, is there anything in your experience in the industry, so maybe at Nuage, or just, I know you've been entrenched in the industry, that you could say this takes the cake? So I know the memory table and the chicken bones, going back is definitely something like that. But I don't know, is there anything else that you would want to share that really takes the cake?
I have a story.
Okay.
I will never forget this. So this predates my time at Nuage, thankfully. It's 2009. Let me set the scene. It's 2009. I've been working in the event industry for about a year at this point. I'm 23 years old. I've been with this event design firm, and I was really fortunate to be entrusted with, at the time, this over-the-top, fully bespoke, fantastic wedding, wonderful family. And they were to be the first couple married at the St. Regis Atlanta. It had just opened that year, right?
Wow.
So I'm super young, and this was a huge responsibility. So I'm like, oh my gosh, I better get this right.
Yep.
So, I mean, this wedding was unlike anything I had ever seen at that time. And I think it was probably pretty cutting edge for 2009, where the state of the event industry was. We had custom laser cut lace overlay linens.
Wow.
I mean, the entire guest experience was just phenomenal. The waiters were passing around unlimited bottles of Moet champagne. I mean, it was over the top. At the end of the dinner experience, we had a full wall of drape behind the band. And guests were finishing up their dinner. The curtains pull back to reveal two huge screens, and the bride was surprised with this 10-minute tribute video that her dad had recorded over the span of a year that she had no idea was happening. And then the pre-function doors open. We had transformed the pre-function space into a 1950s diner, complete with vinyl booths and like the whole
How
scene set.
cool.
We had waitresses rolling around on roller
Roller
skates,
skates.
passing out sliders. And we get to the end of the night. I mean, the bride is super happy. The parents are super happy. The mom's trying to give me her Louboutins because they're hurting her feet. Like everything was just, it came together beautifully. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I did it. Like
Yes,
I've
you're
made it. This is great. Okay, it's all downhill from here, basically. How could this get any better?
Right.
We're cleaning up. I'm buzzing around the room. And I'm approached by a security guard from the St. Regis Hotel. He's like, excuse me, are you the planner? And I said, yes. He said, do you have a manifest of all the guests at the wedding? And I was, yes, I do. I can help you with that.
Right.
And he said, well, we have a guest who's being transported to the hospital. We need to notify their +1. And I was like, oh my gosh, like what happened? Was there like a heart attack or something like that? And he's like, well, come with me and I'll explain everything. So he takes me around the corner on the other side of the meeting space to an elevator bank. As I turn the corner, I see hand smears of blood across the buttons of the elevator on the exterior wall, and on the interior of the elevator.
Sounds like a horror movie.
With blood. On the floor next to it, there's a champagne bottle that has been broken over the corner of a credenza at the St. Regis. And you know how big and thick a champagne bottle is, right? I don't even know how this person broke it. Come to find out, the bride's brother the groom's brother got into a fight with his uncle and stabbed him in the neck.
No.
With a champagne bottle.
So broke the bottle and then stabbed him?
And stabbed him in the neck with the champagne bottle at the St. Regis Hotel, the first wedding they ever have. I mean, everything at this hotel is like beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, brand new. I mean, not only is it a beautiful hotel, but it's like.
And they're probably like, why did we decide to open a hotel here? Like, this is awful. Right. So, yeah, that was, thankfully, he was okay.
Okay, that was like, but hold on. We got to know if he survived. Okay,
the victim was okay, but there was a lot of confusion and chaos. There was definitely an arrest. And then the next day we were hosting a brunch.
Oh my gosh, we got to go back and hear everything.
We had to install a security guard or like a bouncer at the brunch that was happening at the bride's family's home, because this guy was like not allowed to come. He didn't show up, thankfully.
Right. Of course, but you never know. Yeah, you can.
Yeah. So that's it. That definitely takes the cake for me.
I don't even think that's not just that's it. It took the cake. Like that's
the cake is gone. The cake is gone.
Wow. I don't think I have. I mean, wow. Well,
sorry to bring violence. I didn't mean to wake up and choose violence.
No.
That was the thing. It was really, really unbelievable. Thankfully, since then, in all of my time, everything else has just been,
a piece of cake.
Mishaps here and there, funny, this, that, and whatever. No more violence. But yeah.
Wow. Especially for
my team in the industry.
And I always think too, because like I learn something from every event that I do, even now, like as much as I've been, because there's always something you could be like, oh, I could have done that differently, or that's a better way to do this, or, those type of things. But I feel like that, being one of your biggest weddings at that time, I mean, there was just like, such a learning experience from start.
Oh yeah. I think the learning experience was don't pass out unlimited Moet at the wedding, like maybe cut them off.
Maybe cut them off. That's incredible. Well, it sounded like you put on an amazing event.
Came
We absolutely love working with your team.
Likewise.
Can you tell our listeners how they can get in touch with you? How, for their linen needs, and we'd love to hear that.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously visit us at nuagedesigns.com. You can reach out to our rep or open a trade account through our website. It's super easy. And find us on Instagram at Nuage Designs Inc. Lots of fun, fresh content there. We love to interact with you all there. So DM us or, engage with some of our content. We'd love to chat with you. And we just hope to bring a super personalized experience to anybody who works with us. So we really pride ourselves on making those one-to-one connections with our clients and making sure that you feel like you've got a resource in your pocket that can help you navigate the huge world of rentals and linens and design choices. And that's what we aim to do. So don't hesitate to reach us.
Yes, please follow them. I absolutely love looking at the content. And thank you so much for joining us. And we'll see everybody next week.